Brought to you by the Ramsey Network app. Download for content that keeps you motivated today.
How has your view of wealth changed as you've actually built it? You know, there's a view of wealth we have when we're young and we're striving. Has it changed for you now that you're kind of in a different phase?
Maybe in some ways. Listen, I was always ambitious to make more money. I mean, I'm not going to make any bones about this. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that, I didn't get into the business I was in order to make money. You don't go into the political commentary business because you think you're just going to be loaded at the end of the day. In fact, every time I tried to make money in a way that was not my passion, it ended up failing. Right, which I think is another thing that folks don't realize about people who tend to make a lot of money is the reason they got into the business that they're in typically was not for the money.
Right.
It's because that's where their creative capacity was. So, for example, I mentioned I went to law school at Harvard Law, right? You come out, you have a trajectory now. You're going to make a lot of money because you go to Harvard Law, the chances you end up poor are pretty low. So, I work at a firm called Goodwin Procter. And I'm like, first of all, I had the worst interview record in the history of Harvard Law because I was conservative and that didn't work out well with the law firms. But after I took my books off my resume, I got a job and I ended up working in like real estate law. And so I'm sitting at this beautiful office in Century City and looking out, over the hills toward the ocean, and it's 2007, and so there's no work, right? It's the end of 2007. The real estate market has collapsed. You're sitting there doing nothing all day, and I am absolutely miserable. And I was making what was, great money coming out of law school. It's like $180,000, and it was coming out of law school. That's a lot of money, and it's still a lot of money. I was dating my wife at the time. We'd gotten engaged. And she's like, you're absolutely miserable. You're losing weight. You're miserable. You hate this. You should quit. And I said, okay. I mean, I'm going to make I don't have a job. And she said, well, don't worry. I have faith that you'll be able to get a job because you have a degree. You're a smart person. You'll figure it out. And if we have to live on a lot less, we'll live on a lot less. So you don't have to be miserable. And so I ended up quitting. We had just, bought a condo, which was a great move. I took a job for 1/3 the pay, working at a place called Talk Radio Network, which was the syndicator for a bunch of nationally syndicated radios. Yeah. And the deal that I made with the head of the company, Mark Masters, was that I would do corporate legal like half the time. I'd be kind of the secondary attorney there. They had a primary. I'd be an associate about 4 hours a day. And the other 4 hours, I told him, I'm only going to do this if I get to learn the basics of production. I want to sit in the room. I want to cut audio. I want to see how the monologues are done. I want to see how everything in this industry works. And so I got really in the guts of it. From that trajectory came everything else, right? I had to take a couple steps back financially in order to take steps forward because I was learning the thing, getting expert at the thing that I want to be expert at. And then you try and you fail and you try and you fail and you try and then you hit. And I think that's the story for a lot of people who get, really, really, wealthy is that you got to fail a lot.
Absolutely. And I think you're right that the politicians stating that they are your answer for prosperity is a lie from the pit of hell. And I rail on it on our shows about that what happens in your house is 1,000 times more important than what happens in the White House as far as the trajectory of your future success. Neither party is going to make your life awesome. I'm old. I've seen both parties in office. Neither party has sent me money. Neither one of them have caused me to be successful. I've done stupid things under both of them. I've done really smart things under both of them. And the results of the stupid things or smart things that I did are what I inherited.
Well, this is why
Bill Clinton didn't send me any money. He didn't curse me. He didn't bring my life to an end or anything else. And George W. didn't, and Ronald Reagan didn't, and neither one of these two will.
Well, that's why it drives me up a wall when you hear politicians say, I created this number of jobs. No, you didn't.
No, you
By
didn't.
What standard? What business did you start that you created that number of jobs? And if you did create jobs in the public sector, how much money did you have to steal from people in the private sector in order to redirect it to people that you think are now going to vote for you?
I actually just told President Trump that in the interview the other day. I said, when politicians tell people they created jobs, it pisses people like me off because we know we create the jobs. So since small business is the backbone of the American economy, 54% of the gross domestic product, then what are you going to do to unleash small businesses to create jobs? Because that's who most people work for. That was my question to him. And he kind of chuckled and went, well, that's right. It's like...
I think there's something in the American soul that's been enervated and put down for a long time. And the way that we discuss wealth and the way we discuss money in this country has been wrong for a long time. This idea that the wealthy are, quote unquote, the privileged or the lucky. I mean, yes, obviously there's an element of luck. Obviously, we all have the privilege of living in the greatest country in the history of the world. Some of us have more privileges than others in the sense that we were born smarter or we're born more handsome or, we're born more athletic. But the reality is that that's the part you can't control. And so when we talk about wealth that way, what we're doing is talking about all the stupid things that you can't control. The thing that you can control is how you approach the world. And there's a saying that we have at our company that we kind of started trafficking in early on when we started hiring employees, which is you can't teach hungry. Right? I can teach you all sorts of skills. I can make you better at your job, but I cannot teach you if you're not hungry. And Americans, I feel like, have lost hungry, or at least they've forgotten how to be hungry. But I think that deep in the American soul, there is a desire, again, to be pioneers. There's a desire to be entrepreneurial. There's a desire to actually go out there and conquer. And that's a good thing. We've gotten away from this sort of aggressive language with regard to how to approach the world.
Yeah.
But that language is good. I think you have a duty to succeed. I think that this idea that it's a matter of moral apathy, whether you make the decisions that lead to success or not, is really terrible. You have a duty to at least try to succeed. You have a duty to make the good decisions, and you have to take that burden on yourself. And when you do, you'll be freer because you'll be in the flow. You'll feel the thing. You'll feel like you have a pathway to success.
There's something about putting that harness on and leaning into it that stimulates you. It really does. And we've got about 1,100 team members, and well over 400 of them are Gen Z. And for the people watching this, I'm greatly encouraged about hungry. Because in Gen Z, there is a group of them that are tremendously hungry. They are missional. They'll charge the gates of hell with a water pistol. And then there's a group of them that are useless, completely useless, right? And there's kind of no middle ground. Like baby boomers, we would at least lie and, and say we were useful, but they won't even lie. They'll just look at you and say, I'm useless. Or they'll say, let me in, put me in, coach, put me in, coach.
By the way, I think that last point is really important, is that what that says, there has now been created in the United States a permission structure for uselessness. Right? It used to be that if you were lazy, you didn't want to do the work, you at least had to pretend that you weren't lazy and that you did want to do the work. And now there's been a permission structure that's been created by our politics.
And
I mean, every time people talk about, well, is it really that good that you're committed so much to your work? Is it good that you're spending so much time at work? Now, listen, if you have a bad work-life balance, meaning first of all, I don't even like the term work-life balance because work is part of your life. But if the idea is you're spending so much time at work, you're not spending the proper amount of time with your family, that's a real concern. You need to rejigger your life. I mean, I have to make conscious decisions about when to stop working to spend time with my kids. But that's not what people are talking about. What they really mean by work-life balance is that work is something terrible. It's a burden that you take upon yourself. And if only the markets were nice and friendly, then you just get everything you want handed to you. If we just had the Star Trek replicator machine, we just hand you everything that you want. And that's really the natural state of things. And it's like, that is not even remotely the natural state of things. The natural state of things is people dying at the age of 30 from some terrible disease while living in the outdoors, right? That's the natural state of things.
That'll make you grateful.
Yeah, very few Americans have spent a lot of time in other places of the world that are a lot poorer. And by the way, you don't have to go that far. They don't have to be that much poorer. You can go to places in Latin America where the corruption is endemic. I mean, truly endemic. You just walk off the plane. My wife and I went to Panama recently, and literally we got off, the tour guide had to bribe a cop, like at the airport. I mean, that sort of stuff is really, really common. You should be grateful to live in a country where if you try to bribe a cop, you're probably going to get arrested, right? Like the level of honesty in America is extraordinary. The level of consistency in application of rules, yes, there are problems, but compared to other countries is astonishing. If you can't succeed in America, where precisely are you going to succeed? And what does success look like to you?